Assalamu alaikum, Javed Khan Jadoon, program with Public Forum. This is the English edition of the forum, rather. And today, what we are going to discuss is the Indian Armed Forces, judiciary, bureaucracy, and the big businesses are under the control of 10% in India and Indian privileged upper class. 90% are nowhere to be seen in any major institution, be that the armed forces, judiciary, bureaucracy, or the big business. Laments the Indian National Congress leader Rahul Gandhi. This is nothing new, what Rahul Gandhi said. India is, of course, under the control of 10%. But who are these 10% people? These 10% belong to the Hindutva, RSS, and Sangh Parivar class. These are the people who are controlling every segment, every sphere of the society. Be that the armed forces, judiciary, bureaucracy, big businesses, media, even to the extent of Bollywood and the civil society as well. The entire Indian civil society is in the stranglehold of Hindutva and Sangh Parivar. They dictate their own terms and conditions. They would like to listen what they like to listen, and when it comes to the minorities, in particular the Muslims, they have got no space to live in India. More than 200 million Muslims live in India, disunited, directionless, leaderless, and among the lowest strata of the society. They are counted among the elites who form the massive majority in the Indian polity. Muslims have got no opportunities in jobs, no opportunities in the civil services, the armed forces, and even the big businesses, where you find only the privileged upper class Indians and, of course, last but not least, the Hindi belt, which comprises the majority of the support base of a party like BJP. The Hindi belt is basically the dominant section of the society in India. They control the politics. They control every segment of the society. And they have been ruling whether Congress was there or the BJP was there. In both parties, it was the Hindi belt which formed the core base of support. And ultimately, the rest of the country always remained at loggerheads with the Hindutva and Sangh Parivar, a dominant section of the society, comprising mainly from the Hindi belt. This is the picture, which is the reality, and ultimately spoken by the Indian Congress leader Rahul Gandhi. And though, of course, he had to face a lot of backlash because of that, but the fact is fact. To talk about this very important subject and topic, Air Marshal retired Said Khan is in the studio, and we would like to discuss what is the future of 200 million Muslims in India. What is the future of Sikhs, who also are a very potent minority but marginalized? What kind of a future they have in an Indian society dominated by Hindutva? And of course, the Dalit, who are the majority of the Indian population. Will they remain marginalized, and will they remain powerless at the face of the resurgent Hindutva in India, represented by RSS and Sangh Parivar? Thank you so much, Air Marshal retired Said. As I pointed out, that what Rahul Gandhi stated is nothing new. We have been discussing in our shows as well. We have been talking about this subject on a number of occasions, that India is basically dominated by a very limited class which controls every institution. Now exactly the same thing, Rahul Gandhi in an election rally in Bihar, he stated this, and of course he had to face a lot of backlash from the Sangh Parivar top leaders as well. In a given situation, Air Marshal says India is represented by the 10%, not the 90%. And the most worrying sign is the armed forces, where you don't find the common Indians or the common low-class people represented in the Indian armed forces, rather. And then we see how, even in our shows we discussed, how Indian armed forces have been saffronized.
Thank you very much, Javed sir, for inviting to this program again. In India, the minorities are in a very bad shape today. I think we should thank our forefathers who made Pakistan, because in 1940s our elders told us that in a democratic India, minorities have no position.
Right.
And Nehru and Gandhi were against this thinking, but the thinking of our forefathers has proven to be right after nearly 78 years of our independence. 200 million Muslims, nearly 700 million Sikhs, they are in very, very bad shape. And I think we should not forget the Christians. Generally, in all the countries,
of course.
the armed forces represent the demographic distribution of the society. And everyone is given an equal opportunity to rise in service. The defense services actually gain their strength not from demographic representation, but from meritocracy that is applied within that demography in the armed forces.
But institution should be and ought to be represented
Represented by the demographic of the
composition.
But within that distribution, the promotions, the
that is merit
the
based.
positioning of better people at better places takes place only on the basis of merit. So, in a good society, you may be a Dalit, but if you're good, you can rise to the highest position over there. Like it happens in Pakistan.
Not the case in India.
Yes, exactly. So that is my point of view. What has happened in the BJP government's tenure is that there has been a systematic removal of talented people at the highest forums through non-promotions. Those who were talented were superseded, and those who were less talented, just because they were Hindus or they belonged to a better caste, got promoted. And now at the decision-making body, even in the defense forces, you find less capable people, those who are dependent on the political elite for their survival in those positions, instead of that they are on those positions because of their merit. And then that merit gives them the courage to stand up to the politicization of the armed forces. If you are a minority in the defense forces, Javed Sahab, in India, you be in any department in India, if you are from the minority, you have to every day prove your loyalty
to the country.
And that loyalty is to the party.
Loyalty with the Sangh Parivar,
Yes.
not with the country.
So the loyalty to the country is directly, matched or linked to the loyalty to BJP or RSS. Now, this is something very bad. Now, if we look at the chief of the Air Force, he is a Sikh, right? But every day he has to issue a statement, which goes with the political narrative of the government of the day.
Most probably forced to
Give that.
Yes.
You look at Bollywood, the Muslim actors, the Khan trio, which we call them, they have to marry Hindu girls to survive in that environment. So everywhere you find that the Hindus are forcing the minorities to convert to their point of, to their religion, actually. And slowly and gradually, the minorities have now started to raise voices against it. Now, I think Zohran Mamdani's, interview just before his selection.
Let me present some facts as far as the Hindi heartland. We'll come back to Zohran Mamdani as well. Marshal said, if you look at the Hindi belt, which is of course the most dominant, every major political party which ruled India draws its strength from the Hindi belt, and every major political party's leadership comes from the Hindi belt. Without being from Hindi belt, you can't be a ruler in India. Look at the situation since 1960. The major and the core vote bank which BJP always drawn was from the Hindi heartland. And Hindi heartland states, for the benefit of our listeners, it comprises Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Haryana, and Delhi. These are the states which are called or known as the Hindi heartland. And now, look at what happened in 2014 elections and 2019 elections, and then, of course, in 2024 elections. Hindi heartland, which, of course, is spread over several states, accounts for 228 Lok Sabha seats in a parliament, in a house which has a strength of 543 seats. So, 228, almost half of them, they come from the Hindi heartland. And the region, of course, brought Modi to power in 2014, we know that. And out of 220 constituencies, 195 were won by the BJP. And 11 were voted for the parties aligned with the BJP. So 195, 10, 205 and 206 seats had gone to the BJP, their allies. This is 2024. And now come to 2029. Hindi belt gave BJP 183 seats and another 25 to its allies. Once again, more or less the same strength drawn from the Hindi heartland. And when you need to form a government, I believe is 274 or 75 seats are required.
Seats,
so very much near the mark, even if you capture the Hindi belt. And now the region accounted for 61% and 59% of the BJP-led National Democratic Alliance tally of 336 total seats and 553 seats in 2014, 2019, though in 2024 there was a decline as far as the BJP support base was concerned. Now, I think there lies the real issue that a very small number of Indian states known as Hindi belt, they dominate the entire Indian politics, bureaucracy, judiciary, armed forces. There lies the core of the problem here, Marshal Said.
You are right. Historically also, these are the states which have had the maximum number of people in the Indian bureaucracy, the ICS. And they have always formed rules and regulations which dominate or which represent, which ensure that the societal, culture of these states dominates Indian culture. And this has not been liked by many.
Hence the clash with the southern states.
Exactly, and this is the clash with the southern states, and that is why you see that all of a sudden the southern states have started to exert independence and even excellence over these states. I think that the BJP renaissance is over. The BJP, the people of all these states, the central, if you allow me, the central Indian states are very educated people. They belong from very nice backgrounds. And they have started to realize that the Hindutva policies are not the ones that show them in good light all over the world. Like you mentioned yourself, Javed Sahab, that Gujarat is one of the states which dominates Indian polity. But we have a Muslim from India standing in United States and saying that he is witness to a massacre in India of Muslims, that people tended to believe that there were no Muslims in Gujarat. And Modi was the architect of that massacre. So, the Indian Muslims, Christians and the Sikhs and the Dalits, they are all now witness to such heinous crimes in India, and the people are now slowly and gradually, showing the resentment against it. And hence we see that why the Bihar elections have become so important, because if BJP loses Bihar elections, then the reverse cycle will start in India, where people will start to vote against BJP and its Hindutva policy.
But here's a paradox. When you say that the fortunes of BJP are on the decline, or the political fortunes we are talking about of Prime Minister Modi are on the decline, but the paradox is it is not the Sangh Parivar or the RSS fortunes coming down. Disenchantment is with Prime Minister Modi and his policies. Disenchantment is because what they really desired is not there. Of course, when 2024 elections took place, Prime Minister Modi's slogan was "Istafa 400 par." 400 seats he was, looking at as far as the election results were concerned. So he ended up with 240. Needed more, support. He had to go to the allies to form a government. Required the number was 274. Now here the paradox which I'm talking about is it is not the Sangh Parivar, RSS and Hindutva led and dominated India which is on the decline. decline is with the BJP's certain policies and of course, overarchingly with Prime Minister Modi. Because, even though of course we don't believe always the exit polls do not come true, but the exit polls once again show that in Bihar, NDA, the National Democratic Alliance led by BJP is probably going to win. So it's not the Sangh Parivar, the RSS, Hindutva on the decline. You agree with that?
I tend to not agree with your last statement, and that is the assessment of the Bihar elections. I think what I was reading was that the opposition party, the opposition seems to be gaining more votes in the pre-polls. So let's see, the voting is already over. I think another 2-3 days the results should start
coming. Even the
coming.
Bihar elections notwithstanding, overall, if you look at the societal control of the RSS and Sangh Parivar and Hindutva, it is definitely there. They have controlled entire media and entire civil society.
But this is
judiciary.
again,
I should say, among the 500 big businesses in India, you won't find any other business leader who is not supported, abetted, or facilitated.
No, we'll come to this point later. But if let's look at the Indian society and Indian vision of being a secular state. For the last 78 years, Indians all over the world have projected themselves as secular. Not as Hindus
it was just a notion.
Yes, I agree.
Not a secular state in the real terms.
But yes, I agree with you. But this is what the image they wanted to create over there. Let's say they have been working very hard on the image of great India. We all know that India is not great, but they have been working on it. Javed sir, what is more important is that now the same states whom we say control Indian political atmosphere are the ones who are now feeling the pinch of the Hindutva policy. These are the states which are very refined in culture, and culture cannot progress if there is no independence over there. Now there is so much of I think the Hindus have so much dominated everything in these states that the Muslims and the minorities are now feeling strangulated in those societies. And this is not happening nice. So anyone who stands for secular image, which like this time, the Congress is again trying to raise the slogan of secularism. So the minorities are expected to shift to that side, and even educated Hindus are expected to shift to that side. So I hope and wish, as a normal human being of this world, that better sense prevails in India, and India starts to steer away from the Hindutva policy.
That would be contrary to what the facts are in India right now.
Yeah.
When you talked about secularism or the wrong notion of secularism in India, India was never a secular state. When I said the core of the problem lies with the Hindi in the heartland. In the heartland, never accepted Muslims. They never accepted Sikhs as a vibrant minority. They always believed that the Dalits are the lowest of the lowest, and they do not have the kind of a stature or status to be represented in different walks of life in India. Let me quote one important fact, that the demolition of the historic Babri Mosque project started in the government, during the government of Congress, not the BJP or the far right forces. Of course, it was carried out by the fundamentalist Hindu forces, but it was sanctioned. Only a lip service was paid. Demolition of the Babri Mosque was sanctioned by the Congress party when they were in power. Another important, I've been talking about it, very few people know in Pakistan. Whenever you see the upwardly mobile Muslim youth, they are always targeted. I remember I was there in 2008, between 2008 and 10, when infamous Batla encounter took place. Young Muslim students who were, they were just demanding their rights to be the respectable citizens of India, declared as terrorists, killed in encounter. Later on, it was found that, the overzealous police force killed them in cold blood. So, my in my point is that Marshall said that every political party in India is basically anti-Muslim, basically anti-Dalit, basically anti-Sikh, anti-Christian. So there is no differentiation between Congress and the BJP. So that is the worrying sign that Indian society's dominant polity I'm talking about, not I'm talking about the common man. They will never change.
Javed Sahab, I will not disagree with you. You are perfectly right in this perception, in this contention. But I was actually referring to the perception that the Indians want to promote in the world. Right, and they don't want to promote themselves as a religious state. They want to promote themselves as a secular state, a state where everyone has equal rights and other things, which is far from reality. I think we both are talking the same thing, except that you are being very right and candid in saying all these examples that you have given, and I am just trying to highlight that. Now that all these things have happened, the average man in the Indian society is now feeling very disturbed. Why? Because not everyone belongs from the higher caste of the Hindu religion. Hindu religion in itself is very, is not a very human-friendly religion. There are so many castes in it, and your position in the society is based not on what your capability is, but on from which caste do you belong, and that is something which hurts educated and talented people. So people in the Indian society are now getting upset over what is actually happening in India now, and there is going to be a backlash, and I can see the hints of those backlash coming in the Indian mindset now, because you quoted a few examples. Let me quote another few examples to you. Muslims represent something like 20 to 22% of the Indian population, but in the Indian ICS their representation is less than 1%, which means that they are not allowed to come into the Indian civil services, and hence the ruling bureaucracy of the country. Similarly, in the armed forces, their representation in the higher ranks, in the star ranks, let's say, is again less than 1%. So which means that even in the defense forces, you will not see Muslims rising to higher ranks. Similarly, in the judiciary, if you look at their high courts and supreme courts, especially of all these central Indian states, you would find that the Muslims are in very little number over there. I was reading an article, Javed Sahab, in which they say that the jobs that are left for Muslims now in India are only either being a tailor, or a sweeper, or a butcher.
Of course.
Right? So this is very ridiculous. How can you survive in a society? And you see the same people, that the Indians who migrate to other countries, Muslims, Christians or Sikhs, they perform very well in those societies because they are now not being judged on their religion or their caste, but they are being judged on their talent. So this shows, so it is my belief, Javed Sahab, that a society who does not provide opportunity to all its people to excel, then that society cannot progress.
Rather, it could implode at some point.
So it is my belief now that Indian society sooner or later is going to implode from.
There's another dimension. When we talk about, why I keep saying that we need to identify the core of the problem, and the core of the problem is the Hindi heartland. And when we talk about the Hindi heartland, it's the upper class, the Hindu segment of the society, the Brahmins and all that. When we talk, in a political context, when we look at the situation, it's not only when we have talked about the minorities, the Muslims and Sikhs and, the low caste Hindus, Dalits and Christians and so on and so forth. There's another dimension, an extremely dangerous dimension when you say that India could implode. It is the Hindi belt versus the southern 5 states. Because the 5 southern states are primarily and basically a moderate states. And not a single state is being dominated or ruled or controlled by the BJP, Sangh Parivar or Hindutva. Resources are being generated by the 5 southern states. Hindi belt, of course, is lagging behind in socioeconomic development factors. What they want is to grab the wealth of the South. They want to dominate southern states with their language, with their culture, and with their way of life, which is being resisted by the 5 southern states. M.K. Stalin, who is the chief minister of Tamil Nadu, he said, we will not accept Hindi language. We will not accept Hindi culture. We have got our own culture. And following the suit, Maharashtra said the same thing. So there's a resurgent movement going on in the southern states as well. I mean, just to give a different dimension of what is being done by the Hindi heartland or Hindi dominated India, how it is being ruled.
If I can just add to what you're saying, Javed sir, these 5 southern Indian states have even now have their own movies, and now they are using the same medium which the central states used to project themselves. They are using the same medium now to project themselves. And the southern film industry seems, in certain articles it is written, is now becoming bigger than the Bollywood in Bombay. We must also not forget that the 7 sisters and 1 brother in the northeastern they are also not very happy with the central government. Yes, and over there also the BJP in Bihar is not ruling as a party; it is ruling as a coalition. And over there, people are saying that people are very upset with the Hindutva policies, because over there also Hinduism is not the main religion of the 7 sisters. It is Buddhism or Taoism. That's the main religion over there. So the people of the people in India who are in the minority are now feeling very disgruntled with the central government, which is controlled by the BJP, which is now trying to assert itself more and more. And that is why we see that there is so much of anti-Pakistan propaganda in India, because they need to have an enemy on which they have to thrive. They can, because of their own policies, they cannot have that enemy which is within India. So they have made Pakistan a scapegoat, a political, pygmy, against which they keep speaking non-stop. And that is why we see so much of anti-Pakistan propaganda, especially when there is some election time in India and the BJP is, on the downside. And they think that by creating a warlike scenario with Pakistan, it will give them some benefit. It has given them in 2014 and 2019, but I wish and pray that it does not give them in
very recent
2025.
Very recent, this incident and development. If you talk about the very organized and well orchestrated campaign against the Muslims in India, because Muslims are marginalized, you know that. You mentioned yourself that they don't find any place in any sphere or segment of the society. Starting from incidents like Batla encounter to cow vigilantes, and then take it to the Red Fort incident where a blast took place. Initially, the media reports mentioned that could be the gas cylinder blast. Ultimately, it was turned into kind of a circus, and then said that suicide bomber. Once again, upwardly mobile Muslims, young doctors, not 1, not 2, about 6 young doctors, Muslim doctors have been implicated. It was said that the Dr. Umar was there in the car. He exploded the car, detonated, and then they changed the narrative, said that probably he was, transporting the explosive materials, and the material detonated prematurely and he died. First he said there were 4 people sitting inside. Then he said no, just 1 doctor was sitting. And ultimately, even a female doctor, Dr. Shine, she was, a imaginary terror outfit was created, and they, through the media, they told the people of India that she is the mastermind, a young female doctor, liberal in her ideas and beliefs. My point is that even the Congress party was in power, the BJP was in power, the coalition governments were in power. Muslims were always the target of these, because I keep repeating itself that because the problem lies with the dominant class of India, which is primarily drawn from Hindi belt. And Hindi belt, He literally hates Muslims. I have seen it myself. I should say that I lived there for 2 years. I've talked with the, the Muslim, different eminent people from different walks of life. They believe that they will never get a chance to rise upwardly. Whenever, they believe that whenever, the young boys and girls, they upwardly move, and then they are somehow or the other declared terrorist or affiliated with one terror outfit, another terror outfit, and then eliminated in fake encounters as well. So that is the kind of a situation. You rightly pointed out that it is a very complex, a very paradoxical issue. It can't be oversimplified only with the lens of the BJP.
But and just to add to what you are saying, I 100% agree with your contention. Look at the date on which this thing happened. It happened on the 10th of November. All right. On the 10th of November, 11th November was the last date for the voting in Bihar.
The first phase took place on 11th. Okay.
Right. And now they did not only do this, rather just to show that we are very strong, going with the rhetoric of the central government of BJP, that we are a very strong country and we can do it. They put the blame on Pakistan and the Muslims, and on the very, very next day we have the blast at the Islamabad High Court, which shows that it was all, even that it was a false flag operation which took place in India, and Indians were behind the bomb blast that happened in Islamabad. So, if you look at the things, Javed sir, the world is no more supporting India now. How many, words of condolence came from the important world capitals? None for India. Because the people have started to realize that Indians, instead of being, the victims of terrorism in this region, are actually the perpetrators of terrorism in this region. They are using terrorism as a political tool to remain in power in Delhi. So whether it is inside India or outside India, Indians, the BJP government is now being seen as a terror outfit instead of being a political party. And this goes exactly with their ideological thinking of RSS, because RSS believes in using terror as a tool to promote their own
agenda.
Own thinking.
When we talk about different segments of the Indian society, we talked about the political landscape and how it is being manipulated. Let's talk about media as well. In Indian media, the mainstream Indian media, the only newspaper and the television channel which was considered kind of a bit moderate was the Hindu and the NDTV. Apart from them, the Times of India, Hindustan Times, India Today, Indian Express, and so on and so forth, and a whole lot of Indian television channels in English and in Hindi. Ultimately, the Hindu and the NDTV, they were bought over by Adani. Adani, who is of course once again a veritable arm of Hindutva and Sangh Parivar, supported by BJP, supported by Modi, and then vice versa as well, because a lot of funding was coming from Adani for the 2024 election campaign as well.
Ambani's too.
And of course Ambani's. Even to the extent that the 500 big companies, when you look at them, they're all somehow or the other, the support stems from the RSS and from the Sangh Parivar. Now the problem is that the entire Indian society is strangulated by the dark forces of Hindutva. Media, of course, is the only medium or only organ of the state which disseminates information, educates, informs. Not being done. What we are talking about, hardly anybody talks about. They may disagree with Prime Minister Modi or his policies vis-a-vis domestic or foreign policies, but they will not talk about against Hindutva, against RSS. You know that, when they want a movie not to be released, they get it done. If they want some movie to be released, they get it done. Every second movie is now being made against Pakistan, against Muslims. Why? Because it is the Hindutva agenda. Keep churning out, script after script against Pakistan. Nobody buys it. I agree with you. But this is how the societal control is done.
There is absolutely no, difference of opinion in this point of view. The problem in India is, Javed Sahab, that they have started to use, terror as a tool for political expansion. Uh, and everyone, a normal human being, is afraid of his life, of his family, of his, kids being, harassed by goons on the road. It is so very unfortunate that in the last, 3 tenures in which the BJP has had at this sector, they have actually muzzled every decent thinking person in the Indian society. People are so afraid to speak the truth. The only survival lies in speaking what the BJP and the RSS want you
They
to
desire.
speak, and that is it. So media is also a business venture these days anywhere in the world, and no businessman would like his money to go down the drain just for the sake of speaking the truth. So they are going as per as the BJP government wants, and the media is getting in line with the RSS thinking. But I still see a ray of hope, because a ray of hope is there, because I believe in the human dignity of every soul. And not for very long BJP will be able to continue on this trend, because sooner or later the good people, especially from the minorities, will rise, and they will rise against the BJP Hindutva policy. And we are already seeing signs of it. You yourself, Javed Sahab, has said that the 5 southern states, the 7 northeastern states, they are all raising now red flags against the central government. So the people, the states have started to raise their voice, because this was not the India they had thought of joining in 1947. They had thought of an India which was more egalitarian, which was more supportive of all religions and sects in the world. But unfortunately, because of the RSS, we see this bad and ugly shape of India. And I hope and wish that this does not last long, because if you look politically also, Javed Sahab, in the last 12 years, India, instead of increasing its political clout in the region, has actually lost all its neighbors. Just look around India: Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Pakistan, China. No one is their friend except Afghanistan today.
Okay, but the problem with this approach is that if you look at the Indian political landscape as of today, starting from Nehru down to Indira Gandhi, and then down to Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, a party which was the most dominant political party in Indian political landscape is no more there. The Congress which we had known is not a Congress of today. Congress is basically now definitely has become a very marginalized political party in India. A few seats here and there. Even Bihar elections in 2020, they won only 19 seats. The major portion of seats went to the the Rashtriya Janata Dal of Lalu Prasad Yadav, followed by BJP, and then Janata Dal of Nitish Kumar, who is the chief minister, sitting chief minister. And far away was the Congress party. Congress has suffered in terms of popularity. Congress has suffered in terms of credibility. Now, once again, the paradox is that the only or the one political dominant force, which could challenge the BJP is Congress. Congress is not the party of today which could pose a serious political challenge to the BJP. So what could really happen is that the other, far-right political parties will have the portion of the votes and the seats. And ultimately what we could see, this is my conjecture, ultimately what you could see with the decline of the BJP fortunes, there could be a government, maybe, probably, or possibly, formed by the far-right political parties as a coalition government, not Congress. Congress of today is not a party which is going to pose a serious challenge, political challenge.
This seems to be a very predictable scenario in the future. Yes, what you have said makes lot of sense politically. Um, if India does not correct its path, Javed Sahab, I think the independence movements which are going on, on a low key in various provinces, states in India, they will gain strength. Because nobody wants to live in a society in which they are not respected or they are not thought as equals. We have seen a history of the world. In the history of the world, independence movements generally start when when people feel alienated from the powers that be, and that is exactly what is happening in India. So, if Indian central government or Indian polity does not correct itself, India will fragment into pieces. It's only a matter of time. And all these already we know that 37 independence movements are going on in India at this time. And these 5 southern states and the 7 northeastern states are the ones where these independence movements are very strong. So India will.
And next line could be Ladakh, of
yes,
course,
and
afterward Jammu and Kashmir.
That's the Sikkim and other, So that's the. I'll stay with my basic contention is that India has to improve. If it doesn't improve, it will implode.
Implode it will, ultimately, because
Yes.
all the factors are supporting this particular theory. But, my concern, or rather my analysis or my observation, based on my observations on ground, is that when you control every segment of the society, be that media, judiciary, bureaucracy, armed forces, intelligence community, and then you control a different extremist forces like RSS, of course, is a force which is controlling BJP. It's not the other way around. And then you see a lot of cow vigilantes roaming around, on Indian streets, hunting for Muslims only on the suspicion that they might have eaten, meat. They might have kept meat inside their houses. They might have transported meat from point A to point B. Kill them, lynch them. Nobody is there to stop them. Even after, the specter we can talk about is that after or post Modi, there's another gentleman in the wait, and that is more radicalized, more extremist. That is the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath. So it is relentless. This, the juggernaut, Hindutva juggernaut is relentless now. It's only, in my very humble opinion, Congress political party, because of their failure to garner support, give popular policies to the people, or rather the alternative vision to the people of India, they have allowed India to be captured, to be strangulated by these dark forces.
I agree with you, Javed Sahab. Your analysis seems to be absolutely correct. But I also believe in human history, and the human history shows that people cannot live in a society that strangulates them.
Yes, of course.
Right? So if the Hindutva policy does not accommodate the minorities as well as people from the lower sects into the societal hierarchy, then they have no future. So this is what human history has taught us, and I tend to believe in that. So India is not on a path that is going to make it great. It is on a path that is going to disintegrate it.
Maybe in 30 seconds, what should the Muslims, a very, very powerful minority, could do to safeguard their interests in India?
At present, I think hardly anything, because they have been singled out as a minority that needs to be taken care of, and most of the Muslims from India are migrating out of India now. All those who have a little talent and those who get an opportunity, they are moving out. Because in the Indian society itself, they are not getting any. We can see a few people here and there in the Indian bureaucracy, media, armed forces and others, but their percentage is so little that they can hardly do anything to make a change.
Of course, when you are denied the job opportunities and the educational institutions are closed on you, then of course...
So for the Muslims, there is hardly any space in India.
Thank you so much, Marshal Retired Said Khan, as always, for coming to our studio and, talking on this very important subject. Listeners, with this, we come to the end of the show. I'm Javed Khan Jadoon saying Allah Hafiz.